بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. حياكم الله جميعا معنا في الويبينار اليوم. حفظا لوقتكم جميعا إن شاء الله حنبدأ على الوقت بعون الله. أخوكم عبد الله الزهراني المدير التنفيذي شركة الثروة البشرية للاستشارات الإدارية. سعيد بوجودي معكم. الويبينار إن شاء الله بعون الله حيكون باللغة الإنجليزية، ولكن لا يمنع أنه يكون عندكم أي أسئلة ممكن تسألونا باللغة العربية ونجاوبها إن شاء الله باللغة العربية. معانا من SHRM Mr. Vivek Arora. Mr. Vivek is the Executive Director for SHRM Middle East. Also today with us Mr. Amr Yahya, who is the Learning Solution Manager with Tharwa and is also a SHRM certified professional. Today, inshallah, bidnillah, we are going to go through, have a presentation with Vivek. Vivek is going to take us through some of the great programs SHRM has to offer. And inshallah, we will have some time for question and answer throughout al-awnillah. If you have any question, please write it down in the chat and we will certainly answer it. And we will allow Vivek to take us through the program. And also, we will also talk to you about our upcoming programs, inshallah, bi'awnillah. Thank you very much. Mr. Vivek, allow me to maybe you can start by introducing yourself and then take us through the presentation, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah, and good evening, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be on this webinar today. Before I start the presentation, it's a small presentation, so don't worry, we will not bore you out. We will rather have a very refreshing and energetic presentation during the next 15-20 minutes. But before that, let me take the opportunity of introducing myself. I am Vivek Arora, the Executive Director for SHRM in the Middle East region. I have over 20 plus years of experience in the HR related businesses, and I've had the luxury and the privilege to work in over 12 to 13 countries. From my education's perspective, I am a qualified MBA from Guglielmo Marconi University, Italy, and Cambridge University in London. So that's my background. As I mentioned, I have worked in Dubai, of course. That's my loving place where I'm staying currently. Besides that, I've had the privilege of working in the Asia Pacific region, including Singapore, Malaysia. I've had the luxury of working in Turkey, Greece, and several other countries. So that's a quick background about myself. I've been with SHRM for quite some time now, and I'm here to give you a quick presentation about the SHRM. So I'm now going to share my screen. It's a very interactive and a small presentation, and I would love to have questions in case you have any. Please, as Abdullah mentioned, please put your questions on the chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Now, coming to the presentation. This is the presentation that we would like to run you through, a very small but very interactive presentation. So let me just bring you about what SHRM is. A lot of you must have heard about SHRM. SHRM is basically an abbreviated name of Society of Human Resource Management. It is the world's largest HR association headquartered out of United States, Virginia. And as an organization, we are a not-for-profit organization, which means we are not driven by our shareholders like any other large company. We are driven by our members. Who are our members? People like you, me, we are all our members. So our membership is basically the biggest source of our spread and the name in the market that we have. So let's quickly run you through what our business is all about. We were founded in 1948. So we have had the luxury of over 70 years of experience in human resources, the best in class, the most privileged one. We as I mentioned, we are a not-for-profit organization, and we have got over 302,000 members in over 165 countries. You can imagine the kind of spread that we have across the globe. So people all over the world are a part of our membership panel, and they are the ones who help us decide what is that is going to come up from SHRM every new year for our members, for our community and HR professionals. We have got SHRM chapters and local forums in local parts of the world. So besides that, if you look at our presence, we are largely present in the United States, we are present in India, and we are present in Dubai. Across the globe, these are our direct main offices, besides which, of course, we have our partners, just like Tharwa is one of our partners in across the globe. And Thara is one of a very privileged and very successful partner in this region. And I'm sure, this relationship is going to offer more to the people in the Saudi Arabia. We have a very strong vision and mission aligned to our globally recognized authority of providing HR services to the HR society and HR professionals. Coming to next. Now let's understand what do we do? What is that we have the work in offering? As I mentioned, membership is our key. Membership is our most important business that we do. And we have around 302,000 members. Besides that, our flagship product is our global education and certification programs. In this part of the region, we have the SHRM CP, the SHRM SCP. CP is basically a certified professional, and SCP is basically a senior certified professional. Now, does that mean that person who has done SCP is more senior than someone? No, it's not that. These are two unique qualifications, each very, very specific to the role that the person is required to do. It is not that one is superior or the other is inferior. It is two distinct courses that we have. Besides that, we have a very exhaustive and extensive program called as the Advanced Certificate in Human Resources, also known as the SHRM program. Erstwhile, this program was known as the Master's Certificate, but now, because we have gone a step further into our research, this program is now known as the Advanced Certificate. We have over 193,000 people who have cleared their HR certifications, which is the CP and SCP across the globe so far. And now this has basically become a global recognized certification and a job qualification parameter. You will see many organizations who have come forward and look forward for people who are HR certified in SHRM. So people who are SHRM CP and SCP, these are global courses and they get edge over when they are looking forward for their jobs or elevation in their existing roles. The next important part of our part is our businesses and networking events. SHRM hosts world's largest HR conferences, that you've got. If you look at the Forbes report in 2019, the biggest HR conference, which is hosted in the United States, is basically where we have more than 25,000 people coming in from the world every year. The second largest, as per that report, is a conference held in India. So that's where we have more than 5,000 HR people coming in from India in that conference. We have a similar conference that we host in Dubai as well. And inshallah, next year, we are planning to have our conference in the Saudi Arabia region as well. So that's another part. Besides conferences, we are also doing webinars like the one that you're currently a part of. And we have roundtable conferences and other engagement levels and platforms. We have got some professional development programs. These are programs required by the corporates and companies who do not want to go through the exhaustive long programs like the CPN certification, but are interested in doing small. They may be something related to talent acquisition, learning development, people analytics, and so on. So these are short programs available both online and offline. The most important part, another part, is that we are into the advisory and research services. Now, if you were to look at the HR laws and HR processes and systems that have been designed in the world across the governments are largely supported by SHRM. In the United States, the White House works very closely with SHRM to build in HR policies, HR systems for across the countries and corporates. The recent pandemic that we had, there was a similar situation where a lot of the people in the United States were looking up to SHRM on what is that people in HR and organizations should do. So we do a lot of research. So we have a large team of more than 50 people across SHRM who are continuously involved in the research business. So that's another part of our business. And last, we have academic partnerships. We have more than close to 500 plus universities whose curriculum is aligned to SHRM courses in the HR fraternity, in the HR domains. So if you go through a particular, let's say in Dubai, if I were to give you an example, the University of Dubai's curriculum is aligned to the SHRM courses. Similarly, we have certain universities across the globe, more than, as I mentioned, more than 500 universities where the curriculum is aligned to the SHRM courses. Now let's learn what are the programs. I will come specifically to the programs. We have three different levels of programs. The first basic level is called as the Essentials of HR. The second level is basically the Advanced Certificate in HRM. This has basically 8 modules that we have. On the modules that you see on the right side of the screen are the modules that are covered in this program. This program runs for more than 100 hours, up to 140 hours that is being delivered both online and in terms of classroom studies. And this is being delivered in across this region. Fortunately, this program is available both in English as well as Arabic. That is the key strength of this program. The last and not the least is the SHRM, CP, and the SCP. As I also already mentioned to you, CP and SCP are the flagship products of a certification. What is the difference between both of them? The certification program is a test-based program. That means after the program, every person is supposed to appear for a test. If he or she qualifies, he or she is accredited with a credential called as the SHRM, CP, or a CP based on what test he or she has given. So these are the three levels of programs that we have, and people aspiring into HR fraternity based on their roles decide to go on for CP, SCP, or masters. A minute over there on explaining what CP and SCP and how they're different. How are they different? CP is basically, as I mentioned, is a certified professional. It is meant for people who are into HR transactional jobs. So that means if you are in a non-strategic role, SHRM CP is the right program for you if you're looking forward. If you are into a very strategic role, let's say you decide the organization strategies on how HR should function, SCP is the right role for you. Besides your role, it is also important that you have relevant numbers of years of experience to qualify for CP or SCP. On the other hand, advanced certificate looks at your role, and basically if you are experienced beyond 3 to 5 years of experience, you are entitled to go in for the advanced certificate. Now, this is a very, very exhaustive program, and people who look forward into this program find a lot of value and real life examples to implement in their careers and in their daily jobs. Now this is basically the certification, as I mentioned, CP and the SCP. These are the two programs that we are talking about. These entire programs are built on something that you will see across SHRM called as the body of competencies and knowledge. Now, this is the backbone for all SHRM programs. This decides on how the SHRM programs are, what are the topics, and how do we cover them. This is basically designed across behavioral tendencies. This is designed around the technical, or what we call it as the knowledge-based things. So once we cover these 14 modules covered under the BOK, you are basically prepared and ready to go through the SHRM exam. In the United States, we have the 15, but otherwise outside United States, we have 14 competencies to cover under BOK. This is called the body of competencies and knowledge. As I mentioned, CP and SCP will help you focus on your global skill and recognition, can give you a competency knowledge-based learning, can develop your employers, and you will be able to think beyond the box. Because these questions, so over here, it's not like something that you have learned, you will be asked question on that. When you go and appear for an exam, you are given real life examples, real life situations, and you will be tested on questions and answer. Now, this is the only exam that you will come across where none of the answers given in the question are wrong. However, there is only one best question that you think will be applicable in that situation. So unless you have studied the course properly, unless you have been mentored properly, it is difficult for you to evaluate what is exactly the right answer over there. So it is important that person goes through the books and the learning material very, very religiously to ensure that he or she has understood the concepts. Because as I mentioned, the answers are not wrong, they are right, and the most correct answer that is applicable. So it's very confusing sometimes to say which is the right or the wrong answer. However, if you have studied well, and if you have studied from partners who have and like I said, Tharwa has a fantastic track record. If you study from faculties from there, you definitely tend to end up having a better pass percentages. These are the learning systems that way. So every person who is enrolled into a SHRM CP or SCP program, he or she gets two means of learning. One, he or she gets the books through which he has to study in detail, and the other is the online access to our platform. Now, this is called as the LMS platform. On this platform, you'll be able to go through the exact e-learning version of that program, where you go through the following. The entire program is across competencies. So you get a book for each of these HR competencies for people, for organization, workplace. And these are the modules that are covered in these competencies and in these modules. Any questions so far? You can please continue to put them in chat and we'll be happy to answer them. The next course, as I mentioned, is the advanced certificate course. This is a level program, and this is unique in itself because this is very, very relevant to the people who are still not ready to appear for CP and SCP. Does that mean this is a lower program than CP, SCP? No, this is not a lower program. This is not a higher program. It is a distinct program. It is a program where people would want to study in Arabic. It is a program where people would like to learn more in detail So this program is also developed on the body of competencies and knowledge. However, this program deep dives and makes sure that each of the modules that you cover are dealt in detail. So this is a very thorough implementation of the learning of body of competencies. So as I mentioned, this is not equal, this is not equal to, this is not less, this is absolutely a unique program which is distinct of the SCP and CP program. At the end of the program, you will be tested on an assessment that is being given from SHRM. On the other hand, the SCP and CP programs are delivered through a Prometric testing center. One is to enroll for the program and undergo a Prometric testing center module to appear for the exam. And the results are instant because the exams are both online. And as I mentioned, we cover 8 modules: strategic workforce planning, talent acquisition, rewards, HR business partner, human resource development, succession planning, employee engagement, and strategic human resources are the 8 modules covered under the SHRM, this advanced certificate program. That's what we had to discuss about the programs particularly. These are the 2 programs that I thought I'll discuss in detail. Now, if you have any particular question that you would want to ask, please help you, and Abdullah and myself can take up those questions. Abdullah, over to you. If there's anything else I can share, I'll be more than happy to share.
Thank you, Vivek. Much appreciated. Very informative and very thorough presentation. I believe we have a question from Rifa Al-Qahtani. Is there an exam to test my level at the beginning?
Very good question.
Yeah.
You want me to take this up question, or you want to?
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Vivek.
Fantastic. A very good question. Each person, if he or she is appearing for a CP or SCP program, first goes through an initial test. An initial test is a simulation of the exact exam that someone would look at. So what happens are, our exams, none of the questions are repeated ever, because our questions are replenished every year. So whatever previous year questions are there, they come in as practice questions. So what we do is, before you start the program, we give you an exact same kind of a test, and we evaluate your current level of engagement and learning in that program. Based on your scores that you get immediately on completion of the program, we recommend you on which are the areas you need improvement and which are your strong areas. Based on that, you can plan your studies. Now, are we trying to say that the result is sacrosanct and it doesn't change? No. All the results that we give are indicatory in nature. They are almost equivalent to what you will generally see. However, it is always advised that the initial programs may not be written in blood and treated as stone, writing in the stone. So basically, you should go through all the modules in detail. But yes, having said that, the answer to your question is, you have an assessment and you can very well try that. And once you have done that, you also have a post-test assessment, which means after going through the course also, you can again test yourself and see how well you have learned and what is your improvement. I hope I have been able to answer your question.
Yes, I believe that. Vivek, سؤال بس ردا على السؤال. We have a question in Arabic. Vivek,
no problem. Please translate that for me.
I want to give that to you, but I think I'll just handle it.
Sure.
So رفيف عبد اللطيف سألت سؤال: ما هي الشهادة الأقوى، شيرم ماستر أو شيرم SCP؟ بالنسبة للموضوع هذا دائما عندنا أسئلة يعني basically تنظر للمقارنة ما بين شهادة شيرم SCP وكذلك برنامج اللي هو الشهادة المتقدمة في إدارة الموارد البشرية. وهذا السؤال يعني في محله، لأنه البرنامجين يعتبروا مختلفين عن بعضهم البعض في عدة نواحي. اسمحوا لي استعرض لكم يعني basically جدول مقارنة يوضح الفروق ما بين البرنامجين على أساس نفهم الفروق بشكل جيد. خليني بس I project my screen. I'm just answering the question, Vivek, about the difference between SHRM CP and SCP and the basically advanced certificate. So basically هدف البرنامج بالنسبة للSHRM CP SCP البرنامج اللي هو البرنامج الإعدادي هو برنامج استعداد لدخول الامتحان الSHRM CP والSCP، بمعنى أنه البرنامج وجل تركيزه هو على الاستعداد للامتحان. فنجد أنه تصميم البرنامج هو basically دراسة جماعية في المساء حسب التصميم اللي احنا نمشي عليه، وكان فترة من فترات نشتغل في الويكند، ولكن الدراسه بيسكلي مسائيه. نمر على الوحدات اللي هي عندنا 14 وحده تدريبيه، نمر على كل وحده، ناخذ بعض الاسئله الاختبارات اللي مرتبطه فيها، كذلك الزملاء المشاركين معنا يكون عليهم قراءه، يعني لابد انهم يقرؤون الماتيريال وياخذون الاختبارات، يعني بعض الاختبارات او يعني بيسكلي في المنزل من خلال نظام التعلم حق شيرم. فهذا الهدف البرنامج كله هو الاستعداد للامتحان. لكن شهاده اللي هي المتقدمه او شهاده الخبير سابقا هي برنامج تدريبي يمر على 8 وحدات تطويرية في مجال الموارد البشرية، وكل وحدة من الوحدات هذه فيها تطبيقات عملية مرتبطة بتعلم خلينا نقول الجدارات الفنية بشكل متعمق. هذا بالنسبة للفرق ما بين هذا البرنامج. بالنسبة للمحتوى، المحتوى هو تقريبا فيه ترابط كبير لأنه كله مبني على نفس الانفراستراكشر أو البنية التحتية. البنية التحتية للبرنامجين هي شيرم بوك اللي هي شيرم بودي اوف كومبتنسي اوف نوليدج، اللي هي جدارات ومعارف نظام شيرم في التعلم، فهي مبنية على نفس الجدارات ونفس سواء جدارات فنية أو جدارات سلوكية. بالنسبة لمدة البرنامج الشيرم سيرتيفيكيشن 60 ساعة تدريبية زي ما قلنا لأنه برنامج إعدادي. البرنامج المتقدم الشهادة المتقدمة يعني بحد أدنى 100 ساعة حسب تصميم البرنامج، الآن تقريبا حوالي بيسكلي 120 ساعة. هذه سلايد قديمة احنا لسه ما حدثناها. المواد المقدمة للبرنامج عندنا كتاب اللي هو نظام التعلم شيرم سواء كان على الإنترنت أو الليرنينج مانجمنت سيستم نظام التعلم الإلكتروني. بالنسبة إلى شهادة اللي هو الشهادة المتقدمة فيها بيسكلي المحتوى حقها كتيب النشاط وحالات عملية نستخدمها أثناء البرنامج. بالنسبة للشيرم CPSCP هو فقط باللغة الإنجليزية حاليا، في خطة أنه حيكون قدم باللغة العربية مستقبلا، ولكن حاليا هو فقط باللغة الإنجليزية. بالنسبة للشهادة المتقدمة تقدم باللغتين العربية والإنجليزية. هل هناك متطلبات محددة من شيرم لكل برنامج؟ بالنسبة للشيرم CPSCP نعم، هناك متطلبات خبرة محددة بيسكلي تحدد لك أنت تقدر تدخل CP أو SCP. بالنسبة لبرنامج الشهادة المتقدمة ليس هناك متطلبات لدخول البرنامج. الامتحانات بالنسبة للشيرم CPSCP هو امتحان واحد بعد نهاية البرنامج تأخذه في منطقة من خلال إذا كنت في الرياض حي السفارات، في المنطقة الشرقية الغرفة التجارية، جدة الغرفة التجارية. هذه من خلال شركة اسمها برومتريك، هي شركة متخصصة في متابعة أو مراقبة الاختبارات، وهذا الاختبار مدته 4 ساعات 160 سؤال. بالنسبة لشهادة الخبير أو خلينا نقول الشهادة المتقدمة فهذه كل 8 وحدات، كل وحدة لها اختبار في نهايته أونلاين من خلال نظام شيرم. فكل برنامج أو خلينا نقول كل وحدة تدريبية تخلصها تنتقل للوحدة اللي بعدها وهلم جرة. بالنسبة يعني النتائج اللي تأخذها من البرنامجين، إذا برنامج CPSCP إذا خلصت البرنامج مع ثروة أنت بهالحالة تكون مستعد إنك تدخل الاختبار. طبعا البرنامج هذا هو هناك في هيكلة نتبعها في عملية التطويرية تعتمد بشكل كبير على التزام المشارك بالخطة التدريبية، وبعض الإخوان يخلص من برنامج يدخل الاختبار مباشرة، وبعضهم يعني يخلي فترة يذاكر على يعني راحته، هي تعتمد على مدى الاستعداد الشخص. بالنسبة للبرنامج الشهادة المتقدمة بمجرد انتهاء من الوحدة الثامنة وبمجرد أنك عديت ال8 وحدات تحصل على الشهادة من شيرم مباشرة وليست من ثروة. احنا نعطيكم شهادة حضور، ولكن شيرم تعطيكم الشهادة المتقدمة في إدارة الموارد البشرية، وهذه شهادة لها رقم وتجينا من دبي ونسلم لكم إياها إن شاء الله هنا. طبعا التطوير المهني، طبعا الشهادة السيرتيفيكيشن لما تحصل على السيرتيفيكيشن هناك متطلبات انك تحصل على تطوير مهني مستمر 60 ساعة كل 3 سنوات على أساس انك الشهادة ما تروح عليك. بالنسبة للشهادة المتقدمة في إدارة الموارد البشرية ليس هناك متطلب، وفي الشيرم سيرتيفيكيشن هناك متطلب. فكل برنامج زي ما ذكرت لكم هي يعني مختلف عن الآخر في تصميمه، في هدفه. في النهاية أنت يعني وضعك العام هو يعني يحدد ايش البرنامج المناسب لك. انا ارى يعني وجهة نظري من يعني الخبرة في العمل مع الجميع، بعض الزملاء الانسب له خاصة يعني اذا كان لغته الانجليزية ليست بقوية او كان يعني مستوى الخبره عنده ليس متقدم، انصحه دائما ان يدخل الشهاده المتقدمه في اداره الموارد البشريه، لانها تساعد الشخص في بناء المعارف في مجال اداره الموارد البشريه، وكذلك يحصل على شهاده من جمعيه اداره شرم اللي هي تعطيك يعني دفعه كبيره في مشوارك الوظيفي. لكن اذا كنت شخص مثلا متمكن في اللغه الانجليزيه ولديك خبره عميقه وحسيت انك جاهز ومستعد، بامكانك تاخذ شهاده السيرتيفيكيشن، وهذه تعطيك يعني بيسكلي الشهاده اللي هي تحصل عليها من شيرم كذلك. فآمل ان شاء الله انه يعني جاوبتكم او جاوبت السؤال هذا. Are the classes recorded? Will I be able to access it later on? سؤال from Hadil. From our side, since يعني basically احنا we're talking about how to run these programs for the SHRM certification and SHRM CP, SCP. We do not record the classes. Most of them are actually delivered live, and we are currently looking at recording them to be delivered only for subscribers. We're still, in the technology side, have not figured that out, to be honest. And will you show us exactly how to register for the exam? Certainly. Most people who register, we take them through the registration process, and we allow, work with them to get the registration done and get it out of the way. How long do I need to prepare for the test? Usually, for the SHRM certification, if we're talking about the SHRM certification, the time you need to prepare depends on basically your level of expertise. As Vivek mentioned earlier, when you actually start with us, you take a pre-assessment. The pre-assessment will help you determine how many hours you need to spend to study for the SHRM certification. So you can prepare in 2 months, 3 months. And personally, when I took the exam back in 2010, I did not prepare. I took only 2 weeks, went through it, and then went through the exam, and alhamdulillah, I passed. So some people have that. Some people look, because they just, most of the things, they have done a lot of reading initially, etc., etc. They can go through the exam themselves, and others require more in-depth preparation. So it really depends on you and what you know. And what's nice about the SHRM system is that it allows people now to really prepare, ascertain or determine their level of readiness to go through the exam. And with that, usually in our course, which will start inshallah next week, the first session in the program is actually to take the pre-assessment. And we really take this really seriously. We go by the book on this one. And we have been doing this for the past year now. In the past, in 2018 and before, we used to, give people more freedom on how to use the SHRM learning system. Now we really we use the pre-assessment, the post-assessment, and we use the SHRM learning system during class, and we allow people to use it outside class as well. So it's very important for you to prepare and to really go through the assessment.
Yeah. Thank you, Abdullah. To add to what Abdullah mentioned, it's a valid question. One has to be thoroughly prepared. It is important to make sure that you prepare. Now, certain other points that you may be interested in knowing is that when you're appearing for your exam, SHRM LMS system gives you an access to more than 400 plus questions in different format. These are the questions that had come in the previous exams, and you can probably use them to practice them. It is advised. I'm saying it is advised because I strictly mean as advised that unless you are confident and you score above 80%, you can assume that you are not well prepared and you need to do more of study and more of practice to be able to go and appear and qualify for the exam. So ideally, the day you realize that your scores, the post-exam or the post-learning course is around 80%, you are deemed fit to go and appear for the exam. Another important information which I would want to share with all of you is that the examinations happen twice a year in 2 exams. One, there is a spring window, and the other is a winter window. The examination runs for a period of 2.5 months. You can choose a date of your convenience. Earlier, one had to go to Prometric testing centers to appear for the exam. However, with COVID in current situation and current in play, one can appear from the exam from his home, from the convenience of his home. It is being tested under a controlled environment and there is a proctor who ensures that the sanctity of the exam is maintained. So there is a thorough frisking, there is a thorough check, and while your program test is being administered, your control of the laptop is with somebody else. That means you will not be able to use anything on your laptop when your prometric exam is online. That is the first thing. And as I mentioned, the windows is open for 2.5 months. You can book at least 2.5 months in advance, and therefore, at any point of time, if you want to register, the examination windows are generally open for a specific period of time to appear. This is only for CP and SCP. For the advanced certificate program, as I mentioned earlier, you can continue to give your assessment at the end of each module or at the end of the program. So that's how the differentiation is between both the programs. Is it hard to pass the test from the first time? This is a very subjective question, I would ask. No, it is not hard, and it is not easy as well. Yes, there are people who do not pass it so easy. There are people who take 3 times, 4 times to pass it, but there are people who have qualified in the first go, just like Abdullah mentioned to you. They've qualified in first go. However, I must tell you, there are people who are HR directors, senior HR people who have not been able to qualify in the first go. Having said that, is it a fear? Is it a scare? Is it something too big to handle? No. All that we require and all that we demand is your attention and religious studying to the program. If you study well, if you go through your classes properly, and you study your books in thorough, there is a very, very high probability of you passing. However, if you assume that you know everything and you are already 20 years of experience, you may or may not be able to pass the exam. So that's the answer to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Vivek. I have some private questions that came to me, and some of them are in Arabic. Basically, بالنسبة للعربي، هل راح الاختبار راح يتوفر بالعربي أم فقط الدراسة؟ بالنسبة للاختبار، البرنامج اللي هو باللغة العربية، تستطيع انك البرنامج الدراسة والاختبارات هي كلها باللغة العربية. اوكي، فأمل ان شاء الله تكون واضحة. بالنسبة لسعر البرنامج اللي هو شهادة الخبير 25,000 ريال. بإمكانكم تطلعوا على الموقع، طبعا في خصومات أتصور عند الزملاء في السيلز، بإمكانكم تتواصلوا معهم إن شاء الله بعون الله. معنا الأستاذ سامح هنا في الكول، إن شاء الله تتواصلوا معه وما يقصر معكم. بالنسبة لي جاني سؤال كذلك من دلال عنزي، أنا عملت أسسمنت قبل كورونا في السيشن السابق، هل نعمل مرة ثانية؟ طبعا أنا أنصح دائما إنه الأخوان اللي أخذوا أسسمنت ومر عليها 3-4 أشهر إنه يأخذوا الأسسمنت مرة ثانية. هدف من الأسسمنت إنك تأخذ الأسسمنت على أساس إنك تستطيع إنك تعرف مكانك وين في الموارد البشرية، على أساس تستطيع إنك تخطط التدريب تبعك. فبإمكانك تبني على السابق وتدرس وبعدين تأخذ الأسسمنت مرة ثانية، أو تأخذه مرة ثانية جست سي. إذا ما حصل أي تغيير إنك ما درست أو ما راجعت أو فهنا في الحالة أنصح إنه الواحد يأخذ الاختبار مرة ثانية. الاختبار طويل مدته 4 ساعات، ولكن تستطيع إنك تخصص كل يوم نصف ساعة تخلصه في تقريبا أسبوع. تستطيع تنهي الأسسمنت ويبين معاك بالضبط وين موقعك في كل منطقة معارف في الموارد البشرية. أنا بدي صراحة أعطي الميكروفون لعمر. طبعا زميلنا Learning Solution Manager. عمر recently يعني حصل على شهادة SHRM CP، وصراحة يعني أنا فخور في الجهود اللي حطها في البريبريشن. فعمر ممكن تعطي الزملاء كذا نبذة بسيطة عن تجربتك في الاستعداد ودخول الاختبار. تفضل مشكورا.
السلام عليكم. Good evening. يعني نبذة بسيطة عن التحضير، لأن أنا شايف معظم الأسئلة رايحة عليه الاختبار، وهل ممكن أعدي الاختبار من أول مرة ولا لأ؟ هو سؤال برضه نفس as Vivek said, it's a subjective question. يعني ممكن حد يعدي من أول مرة وممكن لأ. بس هقول لحضراتكم دلوقتي ازاي اقدر اذاكر بشكل كويس يخليني اباس من خلال تجربتي في السي بي. اولا it was a wonderful learning journey. حضرتك بتدرس ماتيريال، حضرتك بتدرسوا ماتيريال designed and developed باكثر من 32,000 HR professional across the globe. فالليرنينج فيها متميز بشكل كبير جدا. ان انا احط جنب اسمي سي بي or SCP طبعا بتفرق كتير جدا في السي في بتاعك، بتفرق في الشكل اللي الناس بتperceive you as an HR professional and they know that you have invested time and effort عشان تاخد الشهاده دي. وكمان عندك الاكسبيرينس اللي تم مشاركتها معاك زي ما قلنا من professionals, thousands of professionals across the globe, sharing مع حضراتكم the latest trends, technologies, HR technologies, best practices, case studies. كل دوت هيتم مشاركته من خلال الماتيريال. نرجع تاني لقصه الاختبار، بس عشان اجاوب على قصه الاختبار ديت لازم اتكلم عن الماتيريال شويه. اول حاجه لاحظتها في اول ما بديت الاستادي بتاعي في السي بي، I was expecting ان اول موديول او اول كتاب يكون عن، طبعا have in mind ان دي شهاده في الاتش ار، ان هي يكون بيتكلم على اتش ار اريا، تكنيكال اريا، اوبريشنال اريا، ريكروتنج اند سو اون وحاجات زي كده، ورك فورس بلاننج، الحاجات اللي احنا متوقعين ان احنا نتكلم فيها از ان اتش ار سيرتيفيكت. انستاد لقيتهم بادين اول موديول عندهم باول موديول او اول كتاب، انا اسف، HR competencies. السيت اوف competencies اللي HR professional has to acquire عشان يبقى can be called as an HR professional ويقدر ياد value للorganization بتاعته او بتاعتها. ليه بفوكس على الكتاب ده يا جماعه؟ في طريقتين انك تاخد بيه الامتحان، طريقه مش صح وطريقه هي دي اللي احنا بننصح بيها. الطريقه اللي مش صح اللي هي الاولد سكول. الاولد سكول ان انا هميمورايز البوك، هقرا الكتب، هحفظهم، and I'll go to the exam, I'll go to the exam location, I'll throw whatever I have in my mind or my brain على piece of paper او في الكمبيوتر واكسبكت ان انا هعدي الاختبار. لا، دي الاولد سكول. الاختبار دوت مش عايز يقيس بس ان حضرتك حفظت، لا هو عايز يقيس انا فهمت قد ايه من القصه ديت. سبيشالي اول كتاب مهم. طبعا كل الكتب مهمه، لكن لازم تحط في دماغك اول كتاب اللي هي الكومبتنسز. مش كل الاجابات هتيجي زي ما فيفيك قال، هيبقى عندي 4 اجابات تقريبا، الاربعه صح او هم الاربعه صح، بس انا محتاج اختار من خلال خبرتك ومن خلال اللي ذاكرته في الكتب ومن خلال كمان الكومبتنسز اللي اتعرضت عليك في اول كتاب، تقدر تختار الاصح منهم. هل الامتحان صعب؟ لو اتبعت اللي انا بقول لحضرتك عليه دوت، الامتحان ديفنتلي مش صعب. هل هو يعني سهل بزياده بشكل؟ اكيد لا طبعا، ما اقدرش اقول لحضرتك كده، اذروايز الشهاده مش هيبقى لها الوزن او الثقه اللي هي اوريدي حاصله عليه كسي بي او اس سي بي او حتى الادفانسد. الشهادات دي شهادات قويه، لما بحطها في الانيشلز بتاعتها جنب الاسم بتاعي، لا طبعا بتختلف كتير جدا، بتختلف how others perceive you as an HR professional. يعني in a nutshell ده كان الاكسبيرينس بسرعه. كمان في حاجه احب اضيفها، انا استفدتها كتير جدا وانبسطت منها جدا في الماتيريال. in addition to زي ما قلنا الترندز والتكنولوجيز والنولج اللي اكتسبتها من خلال الماتيريال، كمان هي بتغير الشيفت بتاع التفكير بتاعي. بمعنى ليا بعض اصدقائي، ممكن يكون بعضكم سمع كده من زمايله او ممكن يكون متعرض لحاجه زي كده، ان بعض البيزنس ليدرز بيبصوا للاتش ار تيم عندهم as the nice wise guys sitting in their ivory tower، قاعدين في البرج العاجي، ناس اذكياء لطاف ظراف، لكن هم they are totally disconnected من البيزنس. لا، الماتيريال هنا بتخليك تعرف ازاي تكونكت اللي بتعمله بالبيزنس، ازاي to speak the same language as the business leaders in your organization, so you can earn your seat as a business partner في اي ميتنج going forward بعد كده. فدي من الحاجات المفيده جدا، غير ان هي هتقوي النولج بتاعتي في الاتش ار ارياز، لكن كمان هتساعدني ان انا ابقى بزنس بارتنر، بمعنى ان انا بتكلم بزنس، عارف اربط كلامي، مش بس بتكلم هنهاير 10 هنفاير 10، لا انا عارف بحط الريزن واي بيهايند ات وبربطه بالبزنس بتاعتي. يعني ده in a nutshell. لو في اي question I'll be more than glad to. بخصوص الاكزام.
يعطيك العافية عمر، شكرا لك. Vivek, we got a question about the advanced certificate. I got a question, somebody saying that they have only less than a year experience in HR. Can they go through the advanced certificate?
See, I would recommend that if your experience is less than a year, you ideally should look at your decision once again. However, there is nothing that stops you. There is no such mandate from us that you should or should not. However, I think it is important for you to first evaluate the program. So I would recommend you speak to the center, which is Abdullah or somebody. Abdullah, I recommend somebody should detail the topics to this person, and he or she should take a self-evaluation to decide whether it would be ideal for him or not.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I will answer some questions that are in Arabic. Basically, بالنسبة للبرنامج الخبير، بالنسبة للسوق في السعودية، هل راح يكون في تغير في سيرته الذاتية بالنسبه للبرنامج الخبير زي يعني كاي برنامج تطويري في مجال في الموارد البشريه وغيره، شهاده شيرم او يعني شيرم كمنظمه عالميه، فاي برنامج تاخذه عن طريقها يضيف اضافه كبيره في السيره الذاتيه. ولذلك انا انصح دائما الزملاء في الاستثمار في مجال التدريب سواء كان مع شيرم او جهات عالميه اخرى، لانه هذا يضيف لك اضافه سواء على المستوى المعارف او كذلك على مستوى يعني basically تقويه السيره الذاتيه فيما يخص القوه في مجال الموارد البشريه. Is the training program in thorough customized based on everyone's level? This is from Buha. The program that we are delivering, whether it's the advanced certificate or the SHRM certification preparation program, are basically global programs. We have no control over the material, over the, we only manage the delivery side when it comes to the scheduling and timing, etc. Otherwise, we are basically abiding by the SHRM standards in terms of delivery, who is delivering the program, their qualification, etc. And basically the number of hours that we need to deliver it through, and also the material itself. So Tharwa does not have control over the levels or customization for the SHRM programs. However, we do sometimes deliver the SHRM program and add to the learning journey additional basically help, such as coaching, such as practical assignments, etc. And we have done this with many clients in the Saudi market, and to make the program basically useful for the organization, especially when we do it internally with organization. الأخت ريم تسأل كم الخبرة المطلوبة للكورس؟ زي ما ذكرنا بالنسبة لشهادة الخبير لا يوجد متطلب الخبرة، ولكن تعتمد على مدى جاهزية الشخص لدخول البرنامج والاستثمار في العملية التدريبية. فلذلك أنا أنصحك تتواصل مع الزملاء ونفهم أكثر basically your experience، وعلى ضوء ذلك إن شاء الله يتم يعني recommending أو مقتراح البرنامج المناسب لك. طبعا we got a question from Hadil. If I don't pass this window, do I have to wait for the next window to retake the exam? Yes, you cannot retake the exam twice in the same window. You have to wait for another window. As far as I know, unless SHRM changed their policy.
No, it's exactly, because also it is important that the exam has to be booked in advance. So exactly. If you failed, so obviously you cannot book it in that particular window, so you can't appear. You have to wait for the next examination window. So that's the answer to your question. And yeah.
Wonderful, thank you, Vivek.
And I also wanted to add one more point for your people. You had asked that if there is a special, complexity, or if there is a, if the courses can be amended to the. See, the courses cannot be amended, as Abdullah mentioned. The course is a standard program. It is also important for you to know that the course content for both the CP and SCP is the same. The classroom is the same. The faculty is the same. The class is also the same. However, in the same class, some people may decide to go CP, some people may decide to go SCP. And the faculty, before the start of the program, evaluates and checks who is going for CP and who is going for SCP. And therefore, the faculty is conversant enough to give according conditions and according experience to the people that are looking forward. So if somebody is going for CP, the faculty would handle his requirements, his questions, his environment according to the CP program. If he or she is going for a SCP, it's the faculty who would help him to prepare for the SCP. That's how we become a little flexible for the candidates. But from a course content perspective, no, that is not changeable. Can I share my experience as a certified professional? Sure, please go ahead.
اوكي عمر تفضل يا اخي. Umar, you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. تفضل.
Yes. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أخوكم عمر ثابت. أنا certified professional SHRM من سنة 2018. البرنامج جدا مفيد في حياة الموارد البشرية، موضوع الشرم بصراحة هو مش مجرد اختبار، هو تعلم لكيفية إنه الشخص يكون جدير في الموارد البشرية، كيف يكون جدير، إنه كيف يستخدم الموارد البشرية بطريقة صحيحة، إنه كيف يطبق اللي تعلم من الشرم في الموارد البشرية. مع إنه الشخص دخل الاختبار وما عدى مش نهاية العالم، مع إنه الشخص دخل الاختبار وما عدى مرة ثانية مش نهاية العالم. الواحد بيتعلم من المادة صراحة جدا جدا مفيدة. أنا اختبرت الاختبار مرة ومرتين، والحمد لله ثالث مرة دخلت الاختبار وقلت حخرج من الاختبار هذا ومعايا الباس، وفعلا الحمد لله دخلت الاختبار هذا ومعايا الباس. فكرة إنكم تعدوا الاختبار بكل بساطة هي مبدأ إنه الواحد يطبق اللي تعلمه. قد ما قدر الإمكان أنكم أنتم تعلمتوا حاجة جديدة، قولوا في نفسكم وأسأل نفسكم السؤال هذا: كيف أنا أقدر أطبق اللي أنا تعلمته في الامتحان؟ كيف أقدر أطبق اللي أنا تعلمته في المادة؟ المادة بتعطيك فعلا التطبيق أو المبادئ الأساسية لتطبيق الموارد البشرية. فالموضوع بشكل عام زي ما قال الأخ عمرو هو إنه أنا ما أدرس المادة عشان أحفظ وأسمع، لا، أنا أدرس المادة عشان أنا بدي أطبقها في حياتي، بدي أطبقها في حياتي العملية عشان أكون خبير بروفيشنال في الموارد البشرية.
بارك الله فيك يا عمر، يعطيك العافية. أنا حبيت أشارككم في الجدول البرنامج الشهادة اللي هو SHRM Certification. حيبدأ البرنامج إن شاء الله. إحنا اليوم عملنا الويبينار سبتمبر 14. Our program starts on September 21st. حيمشي البرنامج إن شاء الله up until November 18th, which is slightly before the start of the December window إن شاء الله. طبعا SHRM exam we have the upcoming window which is December 1st to mid-February 2021. فالبرنامج هذا يساعد الزملاء الاستعداد للاختبار في خلال الفترة هذه إن شاء الله. حيكون عندنا تقريبا 19 أو 18 سيشن للبرنامج. طبعا البرنامج هذا basically running تقريبا مرتين في الأسبوع حسب ما فهمت، أو هذا yes okay. So هذا بالنسبة لي برنامج السيرتيفيكيشن. عندنا البرنامج الثاني اللي هو البرنامج اللي هو الادفانس سيرتيفيكت او الشهاده المتقدمه. خليني اطلع لكم اياها. برنامج الشهاده المتقدمه طبعا حيبدا ان شاء الله في نوفمبر 1. ان شاء الله هو البرنامج مدته 35 حصه. زي ما انتم عارفين قلنا ذكرنا لكم انه البرنامج مدته 100 ساعه، اكثر من 100 ساعه تدريبيه. فهو حنبدا في عندنا 8 وحدات تبدا بالتخطيط الاستراتيجي للقوى العامله، ومن ثم تنميه الموارد البشريه واستقطاب المواهب والتعاقب الوظيفي، تحليلات الراس المال البشري، المكافآت الشامله، ارتباط وعلاقات الموظفين، شركاء الاعمال، وفي النهايه الاداره الاستراتيجيه للموارد البشريه. فهذه بيسكلي عندنا 8 وحدات، كل وحده تقريبا 4 حصص. والبيسكلي الكورسات طبعا كلها مسائيه فتتلائم مع جدول الزملاء اللي هم يعني يعملون في وظائف فول تايم. فالبرنامج زي ما ذكرت لكم هذا اللي هو شهاده الخبير، او خلينا نقول الشهاده المتقدمه في اداره الموارد البشريه، هي يقدم باللغه العربيه، بينما الشيرم سيرتيفيكيشن يقدم باللغه الانجليزيه. اذا كان عندكم اي اسئله اخرى يا اخوان انا سعيد اني اجاوب عليها. خليني احاول اشوف اذا في. بالنسبه لبرنامج شهاده المتقدمه او برنامج الخبير حاليا هو ليس مدعوم من صندوق الموارد البشريه. قاعدين بيسكلي الان في عمليه بداناها مع الصندوق، ونحاول ان شاء الله نامل باذن الله قبل بدايه البرنامج في نوفمبر يكون عندنا رد شافي وافي منهم. بالنسبه لشهاده اللي هي السيرتيفيكيشن فهي مدعومه 100% من الصندوق. اذا كان عندكم اي سؤال او استفسار يا اخوان لا تترددوا في التواصل معنا. امامكم هنا بيسكلي موقع الشركه، وكذلك الايميل الرسمي، الايميل الاستاذ سامح، ورقم الجوال والهاتف، كلها متاحه ان شاء الله. بامكانكم التواصل معنا مباشره، ويسعدنا صراحه ان تكونون جزء معنا في برامج مستقبليه ان شاء الله. احنا دائما يعني نسعد بدعمكم جميعا، ويعني متطلعين ان شاء الله ان يكون يعني لنا دور ان شاء الله في مسيرتكم التدريبيه. I would like now to thank first of all thank you all صراحة for attending this the webinar. I would like also to thank Mr. Vivek for his time and being with us today, and also look forward إن شاء الله بإذن الله إن يصير في we have يعني بعون الله يعني all of you guys يعني إن شاء الله part of our basically our programs, and we look forward inshallah to seeing you all inshallah very soon.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. It was really pleasure being a part of this session. Anything that you need, any support from us, we are always there at your help. And I've just put my email address on this chat box. If there is something that you need help, you can obviously write an email to us, and we'll be happy to answer. You can always mark a CC to Abdullah in that mail for a prompter and response as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Vivek. Much appreciated. Thank you everyone. تصبحون على خير إن شاء الله، ونراكم بعون الله لاحقا إن شاء الله. شكرا لكم.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
شكرا.